We're going to finish up the first Captain Underpants, The Adventures of Captain Underpants, now in full color action thrills at last, the first epic novel by Dav Pilkey. And if you have missed the other chapters, there are links in the description so you can start at the beginning. Chapter 15, Dr. Diaper. George and Harold hid behind the van until the coast was clear. Then they sneaked up to the hole in the door and peeked inside. Captain Underpants was all tied up. The two robots were standing guard, and a strange little man wearing a diaper was laughing maniacally. I am the evil Dr. Diaper, the strange little man told Captain Underpants, and you will be the first to witness my takeover of the world. Dr. Diaper placed the stolen crystal into a large machine called the Lasermatic 2000. The machine started to light up and make loud noises. Heavy gears began shifting and spinning, and a laser beam from the crystal shot straight up through the hole in the roof. In exactly 20 minutes, this laser beam will blow up the moon and send huge chunks of it crashing down upon every major city in the world, laughed Dr. Diaper. Then I will rise from the rubble and take over the planet. Oh, only one thing could help us now, said George. What? Rubber doggy doo-doo? Said George. Harold took the fake doggy doo-doo and slingshot from George's backpack and handed them to him. Be careful, said Harold. The fate of the entire planet is in your hands. With careful and precise aim, George shot the rubber doo-doo through the air and across the room. It landed with a plop right at the feet of Dr. Diaper. Yes, whispered George and Harold. Dr. Diaper looked down at the doo-doo between his feet and turned bright red. Plop. Oh, dear me, he cried. I'm dreadfully embarrassed. Please excuse me. He began to waddle toward the restroom. This has never happened to me before, I assure you, he said. I guess with all the excitement, I just, oh dear. While Dr. Diaper was off changing himself, George and Harold sneaked into the old warehouse. Immediately, the robots detected the boys and began marching towards them. Destroy the intruders, said the robots. Destroy the intruders. George and Harold screamed and ran back to the back of the warehouse. Luckily, George found two old boards and gave one of them to Harold. We're not going to have to resort to extremely graphic violence, are we? Asked Harold. I sure hope not, said George. Chapter 16, the extremely graphic violent chapter. Warning, the following chapter contains graphic scenes showing two boys beating the tar out of a couple of robots. If you have high blood pressure, or if you faint at the sight of motor oil, we strongly urge you to take better care of yourself and stop being a baby. Okay, so this is introducing Flipperama. We know how Flipperama works, but as everybody knows, nothing enhances silly action sequences more than really cheesy animation. And so far, for the first time in the history of great literature, we proudly bring you the latest in cheesy animation technology, the art of Flipperama. Flipperama, Chapter 1. Oh, Flipperama 1, pages 87 to 89. Remember, flip only 87. While you are flipping, be sure to see the picture of 87 and on 89. So, here we go. We'll show you Flipperama. Robot Rampage. Click, click, click. Ah, ah. Flipperama number 2. George saves Harold. Bonk. Bonk. Ah, ah. Flipperama number 3. Harold returns the favor. Thwink. Hoo. Thwink. Ooh. Boink, 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 boink. Ah. Flipperama number 4. Mixed nuts and bolts. Boing, boing. Ha 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 ha! Boing, boing! Ha 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 ha! Chapter 17. The Escape. After defeating the robots, George and Harold untied Captain Underpants. Come on, cried Harold. Let's get out of here. Wait, said Captain Underpants. We have to save the world first. So George, Harold, and Captain Underpants frantically looked all over the Lasermatic 2000, searching for a way to shut it down and stop the inevitable disaster. Said Harold. I think this might be the lever we want. Self-destruct. Please don't pull. He pulled the self-destruct lever with all his might, and suddenly the Lasermatic 2000 began to sputter and shake. The huge laser beam turned off, and pieces of the machine began flying off in all directions. It's gonna blow! Cried Harold. Run for your lives! Not so fast, screamed Dr. Diaper, who had appeared out of nowhere. You demolished my robots. You destroyed my Lasermatic 2000. And you ruined one of my one chance to take over the world. But you won't live to tell the tale. Dr. Diaper pulled out his Diapermatic 2000 ray gun and pointed it at George, Harold, and Captain Underpants. Captain Underpants quickly stretched a pair of underwear and shot it at Dr. Diaper. Stretch! And the underwear landed right on the evil doctor's head. Brat, snap! Help! Cried Dr. Diaper. I can't see! I can't see! George and Harold ran out of the warehouse as fast as they could. Great shot, Captain Underpants, cried Harold. There's one thing I don't understand, said George. Where'd you get the extra pair of underwear? What extra pair? Said Captain Underpants. Never mind that, cried George. Let's just get out of here before the Lasermatic 2000 thing kaboom! Explodes. The Lasermatic 2000 blew up, tearing apart the old warehouse. It sent flaming shards of red-hot metal in every direction. Fire fell from the sky around our heroes, and the earth began to crumble beneath their feet. Oh no, cried Harold. We're doomed. Chapter 18, to make a long story short. They got away. Chapter 19, back to school. George, Harold, and Captain Underpants made a quick stop outside the police station. They tied Dr. Diaper to a lamppost and attached a note to him. Arrest me. There, said Captain Underpants. That ought to explain everything. And this says, back in 15 minutes. Please don't commit any crimes till we return. Thank you. Then George and Harold led Captain Underpants back to Jerome Horowitz Elementary School. Why are we going here? Asked Captain Underpants. Well, said George, you have to do some undercover work here. Yeah, said Harold, reaching into his backpack. Put these clothes on and make it snappy. Don't forget your hair, said George. Captain Underpants quickly got dressed behind some bushes. Well, how do I look? He asked. Pretty good, said George. Now try to look really mad. Captain Underpants made the nastiest face he could. You know, said Harold, he kind of looks like Mr. Krupp. Harold, whispered George, he is Mr. Krupp. Oh, yeah, said Harold. I almost forgot. Before long, they were all back inside Mr. Krupp's office. Okay, Captain Underpants, said George. You are now Mr. Krupp. Snap your fingers, whispered George. Oh, yeah. George, said George. You are now Mr. Krupp. Who's Mr. Krupp? Asked Captain Underpants. Oh, no, cried Harold. It's not working. The boys tried again and again to dehypnotize Captain Underpants, but nothing seemed to work. Said Harold. Let me see the instruction manual for the ring. George checked his pants pocket. Said George. I think I lost it. You what? Cried Harold. The two boys searched frantically through the office, but the 3D hypno-ring instruction manual was nowhere to be found. Never mind, said George. I have an idea. He removed the flowers from the large vase in the corner, and then he poured out all of the water over Captain Underpants' head. "What did you do that for?" cried Harold. I saw him do this in a cartoon once," said George, "so it's gotta work." After a few minutes, Mr. Krupp slowly came to. "What's going on here?" he demanded. "And why am I all wet?" George and Harold had never been so glad to see Mr. Krupp in all their lives. "Oh, I'm so happy I could cry," said Harold. "Well, you're gonna cry when I give you that videotape. When I give that videotape to the football team," shouted Mr. Krupp. "I've had it with you too." Principal Krupp took the videotape out of his filing cabinet. "You boys are dead meat," he sneered. He stormed out of his office with the video and headed towards the gym. George and Harold smiled. "Wait till the football team sees that video," said Harold. "Yeah," said George. "I sure hope they like singing Purple Dragons." "Hey, look," said George. "I found the 3D Hypno Ring instruction manual. It was in my shirt pocket, not my pants pocket." "Well, throw that thing away," said Harold. "We'll never need it again." "I sure hope not," said George. "And it says, warning, whatever you do, don't pour water on anybody's head when they are in a trance. This will cause the hypno person to slip back and forth from their trance to reality whenever they hear the sound of fingers snapping." Chapter 20, the end. La, 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 we love Boomer, la, la, la. Purple Dragon Sing-Along Friends. Things at Jerome Horowitz Elementary School were never quite the same after that fateful day. The football team enjoyed Mr. Krupp's video so much that they changed their name from the Knuckleheads to the Purple Dragon Sing-Along Friends. The name change didn't go over too well with the fans, but hey, who's going to argue with a bunch of linebackers? George and Harold went back to their old ways, pulling pranks, cracking jokes, and making new comic books. They had to keep an eye on Mr. Krupp, though. Snap! Because for some strange reason, every time he heard the sound of fingers snapping, Principal Krupp turned back into you-know-who. "Oh, no," cried Harold. "Here we go again," said George. "Tra-la-la!" The origins of Captain Underpants. Dav Pilkey created Captain Underpants when he was 8 years old. It all happened back in 1974 when Dave was a second grader at St. John's Lutheran School in Elyria, Ohio. It might not surprise you to know that Dav Pilkey was the class clown back in the second grade. He was also the class artist. Whenever Dave got a chance, he would draw funny pictures to make his friends laugh. Dave also folded sheets of paper in half to make his own fliporamas, which depicted ridiculous scenes of mayhem. He and his friends called them flip actions back then. Like George and Harold, Dav Pilkey even made his own original comic books. All of these things were seen as great distractions and annoyances by Dave's cantankerous teacher, Mrs. Ribble. Not her real name. It was the very teacher, however, who inadvertently gave Dave the idea for Captain Underpants. One day, Miss Ribble was talking to the class, and she happened to use the word underwear. Everyone in Dave's class immediately began to laugh. This irritated Dave's teacher, and she got very angry. She scolded the children, shouting, "Underwear is not funny." This only made the class laugh even harder. At that moment, Dav Pilkey had an epiphany. He realized that underwear was a very powerful thing. Just the mere mention of it could make everyone laugh. That day, Dav Pilkey drew his very first drawing of a caped hero named Captain Underpants. Dave's drawing was an immediate hit with his classmates. Miss Ribble, however, was not amused. She immediately tore up Dave's drawing and sent him out into the hallway. Zong! Ha 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 ha! Hee 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 hee! Dav Pilkey was no stranger to spending time in the hallway. In the second grade, Dave got banished to the hallway almost every day. Usually, he spent the time sneaking up and down the corridors, changing the letters on all the bulletin boards around so that they spelled out ridiculous things. It wasn't long before Miss Ribble got wise to Dave's hallway shenanigans and moved a spare desk out there so he would stay put. "Mr. Pilkey, out!" And this says, "catch a fart." Usually, Dave just drew silly pictures while he sat in the hallway desk. But on the day of Dave's great epiphany, he was inspired. He began making a comic book about his underwear-clad hero. Captain Underpants flew into action on the pages of Dave's story. And this says, "Our school has spit." And I'm sure it said spirit before. Defeating terrible monsters, rescuing innocent children, and saving the world in a crazy flip-action scenes. When Dave was finally allowed back into the classroom, he brought his comic book in with him. It didn't take long before Captain Underpants' first adventure began causing outbursts of laughter and hysteria. Miss Ribble seized Dave's comic, ripped it up, and told him he'd better straighten up. "You can't spend the rest of your life making silly books," she told him. Despite his teacher's admonishments, Dav Pilkey did indeed continue making silly books. In fact, Dave got his very first silly book published when he was still in college. After he graduated, Dave wrote and illustrated many more silly books about dogs, cats, mice, dragons, and dumb bunnies. When he wasn't making books, Dave visited hundreds of schools and libraries and talked with children about his experiences as an author. Every time Dave spoke, he would draw a giant picture of Captain Underpants, which made the children laugh hysterically. At the end of the presentation, kids would always ask the same question: "Are you ever going to make a book about Captain Underpants?" I don't know," Dave would reply. "You think I should?" The answer was always a resounding, roof-raising scream of yes. Zong. So, in 1996, Dav Pilkey began writing and drawing the book you are holding in your hands right now. Dave wanted to include as much of his own childhood as possible in the book, so he based George and Harold on himself. Like Dave, George and Harold are class clowns and class artists. They make comics, they switch letters around on signs, and they are always getting in trouble with their teachers and principal for one thing or another. And of course, their action scenes are always presented in Flip-O-Rama. And here are some fun facts. Fun fact number 1, George and Harold got their name from two famous children's books that Dav Pilkey loved as a child, Curious George and Harold and the Purple Crayon. George and Harold's last name, Beard and Hutchins, were the last names of two child actors who appeared in Hal Roach's Our Gang comedies, also known as The Little Rascals. Dave watched the show every day when he was a kid, and his two favorite characters, Weezer and Stymie, were portrayed by childhood actors Bobby Hutchins and Matthew Beard. Fun fact number 3, Mr. Krupp's last name was also taken from Our Gang, a Little Rascals character, sort of. In 1934's short film Shrimp for a Day, featured an evil, grouchy old man who made quite an impression on Dave when he was a kid. The character's name in the film was Mr. Crutch, but Dave remembered it incorrectly, instead giving Captain Underpants' alter ego the moniker Mr. Krupp. If Dav Pilkey's memory had been better, Mr. Krupp would have been Mr. Crutch. Fun fact number 4, Jerome Horowitz Elementary School was named after Curly, one of the Three Stooges, another show Dav Pilkey watched every day as a child. Curly's real name was Jerome Horowitz. Fun fact number 5, Dav Pilkey not only writes all of the Captain Underpants stories, he also does all of the illustrations, including the paintings on the covers. It takes Dave about 6 months to write each book and another 6 months to draw and paint every picture. Fun fact number 6, Dave draws all of the interior illustrations with pencil. They are then photocopied onto white cardstock and painted with watercolor paint. The covers are painted in acrylics with a dash of Indian ink. And here are a bunch of Captain Underpants books and more Super Diaper Baby. And there we go. Good night. I love you.